Welcome the Lord's chosen. Every debt the universe records must one day be paid, and karma never misplaces a receipt. For centuries, across every culture, humans have believed in an invisible force that balances injustice, sometimes slowly, but always with precision. Historians note that ancient civilizations feared dishonorable acts, not because of law or punishment, but because they believed karma itself would one day collect its due. And let's be brutally honest, karma is the only judge that doesn't need a courtroom, a lawyer, or even a gavel. It simply waits silently until the stage is set. And here's the irony. Your enemies thought they had gotten away with everything. They thought manipulation was their superpower, lies their armor, and betrayal their invisible cloak. But karma isn't fooled by costumes. When the curtain falls, the masks they wore will be the very first things to disintegrate. And trust me, it won't be a gentle unmasking. It will be the kind of strip down that makes the whole audience gasp. And let's just say, there will be no designer clothes or Instagram filters to hide behind this time. Chosen ones, understand this. You don't need to fight dirty because the universe has a savage sense of humor. The same stage your enemies built to embarrass you will become the theater of their own undoing. The applause they chased will turn into laughter. Not with them, but at them. And if you've ever wondered whether karma enjoys irony, the answer is yes. In fact, karma is the master of poetic comedy. It writes punchlines with people's secrets and delivers them right when the spotlight is hottest. So sit tight. The show isn't about to start. It has already begun. And soon the people who tried to strip you of dignity will be standing exposed, stripped by something far greater than you could ever plan. Justice, timing, and truth, all working hand in hand. Number one, karma doesn't punish in secret. It chooses a stage. That is one of the most unsettling truths about how life balances itself. When someone does wrong, it rarely catches up to them quietly in a corner where nobody sees. Instead, it waits, often for years, until the perfect moment arrives. And when it does, the downfall is never private. It is witnessed, it is remembered. It becomes part of their story forever. This is why karma feels so ruthless, because it doesn't just settle scores, it exposes. Think about the way arrogance works. People who harm others usually thrive on being seen. They want recognition, applause, and validation. They crave eyes on them, and that craving becomes the very trap they cannot escape. Karma uses their hunger for attention as the stage for their collapse. It's not just about payback. It's about symmetry. They did their harm openly, so their consequences unfold openly too. When the lies they built their image on begin to unravel, there is no hiding. It doesn't matter how carefully they rehearsed their life. The spotlight they fought to control becomes the very thing that reveals every crack. The cruelty of this process is that there's no escape route. A private punishment would allow them to recover, rebrand, and reinvent themselves without anyone knowing. But karma doesn't give that kind of mercy. It waits until they have climbed as high as possible, until they are surrounded by people whose approval they desperately need, and then it strikes. Suddenly, the carefully crafted mask falls apart in the most public way possible. What was once their strength, their visibility, becomes their greatest weakness. And here's what makes it sting even more. People don't forget exposure. Money can be earned again, opportunities can reappear, but when someone is stripped in front of everyone, that memory lingers in the minds of those who watched it happen. It follows them into every room, every conversation, every attempt to rebuild. That is why karma doesn't punish in whispers, it punishes in echoes. It punishes in ways that stick, so that even if the guilty try to rewrite their story, the world already knows the real script. This is the stage karma waits for, and when it finally comes, no curtain can close quickly enough to save them. Number two, your enemies won't just fall, they'll collapse under the weight of their own masks. Pretending is heavy. It takes more energy than honesty ever could. When people build their lives around lies, manipulation, and false images, they may look strong on the surface, but inside they are constantly carrying the strain of performance. At first, they might even succeed, because masks can trick people for a while, but the longer they wear them, the heavier they become. Sooner or later, the weight is too much, and that's when the collapse happens. What most people don't realize is that lies don't simply fade away, they stack up. Each false promise, each backstab, each secret adds another layer to the mask. They keep piling it on, believing they can handle it, believing no one will notice. But every mask comes with a cost. It steals authenticity, it drains peace of mind. It creates a life that cannot stand on its own without constant maintenance. And maintenance becomes impossible when cracks begin to show. The more they try to hold the mask in place, the faster it slips. The collapse isn't just about being caught, it's about self-destruction. A person can only juggle so many roles before they forget who they truly are. They start living in fragments, switching masks depending on the audience, until even they can't keep up with their own performance. That confusion leaks out. Their stories no longer align, their actions betray their words, and people around them begin to notice, not because you exposed them, but because the mask has grown too heavy for them to wear convincingly. And when the collapse finally comes, it's brutal. Masks don't fall off neatly, they shatter. The very people they sought to impress become the first to laugh, criticize, or turn away. The audience they thought they controlled becomes the witness to their downfall. That's the cruel irony. The world rarely pities those who fall from fake heights. Instead, it often feels like justice has finally caught up. This is why enemies never really win when they rely on lies. What looks like strength is just borrowed time. Their collapse isn't an accident, it's the natural result of living under the crushing weight of masks that were never meant to be worn forever. Number 3, the revenge you wanted is too small. Karma's version is always bigger. Human imagination is limited. When someone hurts you, you picture scenarios where they get what they deserve. Maybe you think of them losing their job, being embarrassed, or simply feeling the same pain they caused you. But karma doesn't operate on your level of imagination. It doesn't settle for a quick hit or a single moment of justice. Instead, it constructs something larger, something woven into the very fabric of their life, so that the consequences touch every corner of their existence. This is why karma often takes time. It's not because it's slow or forgetful, it's because it's thorough. While you are tempted by the idea of a sharp and instant payback, karma designs something long-lasting, almost poetic in its detail. The fall won't just be about one mistake or one exposure. It will unravel in a way that mirrors the harm they caused, only magnified. They may have broken your trust in private, but karma will break their credibility in public. They may have stolen a moment of your peace, but karma will allow chaos to linger in their lives until peace feels foreign to them. The beauty and cruelty of this process is that karma doesn't only return what they gave out, it amplifies it. Think of it as consequences with interest. They planted seeds of destruction, but by the time the harvest comes, those seeds have grown into forests of complications they can't cut down. Their smallest betrayals grow into their biggest losses. Their smallest lies expand into reputations they can't repair. What they thought would disappear in the shadows eventually stands taller than them in the light. And here's the part most people overlook. Karma's revenge doesn't just happen once, it lingers. It turns into patterns, into repeating failures, into relationships that collapse in the same way again and again. This is why your enemy's downfall often feels bigger than you could have ever planned. Because it isn't just one strike, it's a series of blows that keep reminding them of the harm they once dealt. So when you wish for revenge, understand that what you dream of is tiny compared to what life itself will deliver. Karma never gives back in equal measure. It always expands the scale until the weight of it becomes undeniable, leaving no doubt that what's unfolding is more than chance. It's balance being restored. Number 4, karma never returns what was taken. It multiplies what was hidden. This is where people often misunderstand how balance really works. They think if someone steals from you, life will simply take the same thing back from them. But karma is far more intelligent than simple mirroring. It doesn't just hand back a matching punishment. Instead, it digs deeper, pulling out things they thought were buried, forgotten, or hidden beyond reach. And when those things surface, they are far heavier than the original act of theft. When someone robs you of opportunities, dignity, or peace, the loss is real, but it is not the whole story. Karma looks at the intention, the deceit, and the arrogance behind that action. Those hidden motives are like debts they thought nobody saw. They assumed if they could cover their tracks, they were safe. But what they failed to realize is that nothing hidden stays hidden forever. Karma's justice isn't about replacing what you lost. It's about unearthing what they buried and multiplying the weight of it until it crushes them. Think about how thieves of dignity operate. They attack someone else's character to make themselves look bigger. They spread lies, manipulate stories, or humiliate others for their own gain. At first, it seems like they've won because they successfully shifted attention away from their own flaws. But when karma turns, it doesn't just reveal the harm they did, it drags out every flaw, every lie, every insecurity they tried to bury. And now, instead of hiding behind someone else's pain, they are forced to face their own exposure. The same is true with peace. If they destroyed yours, karma doesn't simply take away their peace for a day or two, it multiplies their unrest. It brings back sleepless nights, fractured relationships, constant suspicion, and the feeling of being trapped in battles they cannot win. What they once tried to bury under arrogance or bravado rises up in waves they can't outrun. This is the reason their punishment feels so overwhelming when it arrives. It's not just the return of what they did to you, it's the unveiling of everything they thought they had gotten away with. Karma doesn't just give them back what they took, it multiplies the hidden truths they buried and forces them to live with the weight of it in front of everyone. Number 5, exposure hurts more than loss, and karma knows that. Losing money, power, or even a position in society is painful, but people can bounce back from those things. They can save again, start a new job, or build a new image. Losses can be replaced with time and effort. But exposure? That's a wound that doesn't heal the same way. When the truth about someone's hypocrisy is dragged into the open, it clings to them. No matter how hard they try to polish themselves up afterward, the memory of that naked truth lingers. It becomes a shadow that walks into every room with them. This is why karma doesn't just strip people of possessions, it strips them of illusions. It takes away the protective layers they carefully wrapped around themselves and forces everyone to see what lies beneath. And the damage of being exposed is far greater than losing something material. You can recover from bankruptcy, but you can't recover from people knowing you are a fraud. You can rebuild a career, but you can't rebuild trust once it's shattered. The loss of respect cuts deeper than the loss of wealth. Hypocrisy thrives in secrecy. It survives because people believe the mask instead of the reality. But once the mask is removed, the power it had is destroyed. Exposure doesn't just reveal one mistake, it rewrites the entire story of that person. Suddenly, every success they claimed is questioned. Every compliment they received is seen as undeserved. Their whole narrative collapses because once people realize they were living a lie, nothing they say or do feels authentic again. Karma understands this, which is why it waits until the moment exposure will cause the greatest impact. It isn't rushed. It allows the hypocrite to rise high to gain attention, to gather admiration. And then, when the crowd is largest, the mask comes off. The shame is multiplied because the higher they climbed, the more people witness their fall. And here's the cruelest part. Exposure is permanent. Time may dull the gossip, but people remember. They may forgive, but they do not forget. That memory attaches itself like a stain, showing up in whispers, side glances, and subtle reminders. Karma doesn't aim to destroy them with loss. It aims to make sure their truth is seen, because that kind of ruin is impossible to erase. Number 6. You were silent so karma could speak loud enough for all. In a world where people are quick to react, quick to defend themselves, and quick to shout back when attacked, your silence may have looked like surrender. But it wasn't weakness. It was strategy written into the fabric of the universe itself. By refusing to fight on their terms, you allowed something greater to step in. You gave space for karma to prepare its voice, and when karma speaks, it doesn't whisper, it echoes. There's a kind of power in restraint that most people underestimate. Your enemies probably mistook your silence for fear, thinking they had the upper hand. They wanted you to fight back, to get tangled in the chaos, because if you had, it would have blurred the lines. They could have twisted the story, painted themselves as victims, or distracted others with noise. But by holding your ground and refusing to play their game, you stripped them of excuses. You left them alone with their actions, and that's the one place where truth always wins. Karma doesn't need you to argue on its behalf. It doesn't need you to gather evidence, rally witnesses, or shout until people finally believe you. It simply uses their own shadows to expose them, the lies they told, the tricks they played, the harm they tried to bury. All of it eventually rises to the surface. And when it does, your silence becomes louder than any speech could ever be. It shows that you trusted a higher balance, that you weren't desperate to convince anyone, because you already knew time would tell the story better than you could. When karma finally delivers its verdict, it speaks in a way no one can deny. Their own actions betray them. Their own patterns condemn them. Their own shadows testify against them louder than your words ever could. And the beauty of it is this: because you stayed silent, nobody can say you orchestrated it. Nobody can accuse you of plotting revenge. The downfall belongs to them, and everyone knows it. Your silence was not emptiness. It was the stage being cleared for karma's megaphone. And when karma speaks, it doesn't just prove you right, it proves that you never needed to fight dirty, because truth has its own way of making itself heard. Number 7, their downfall isn't random. It's a debt maturing with interest. Nothing in this world goes unrecorded. Every word spoken in malice, every act of cruelty, every betrayal that cut deep, all of it is a kind of bill they wrote for themselves. At first, it looks like they've gotten away with it, like they walked out of the store without paying, laughing at the idea of consequences. But life doesn't forget. It doesn't erase the tally, it waits. And while it waits, the cost rises. This is what makes karma so precise. It doesn't rush to punish, it lets time do its work, because time multiplies the weight of unpaid debts. The lies they told years ago will cost more today than they did then. The harm they inflicted may have looked small to them at the time, but every day they ignored accountability, the interest grew. That's why their downfall feels so crushing when it finally arrives. It isn't just one act being answered for, it's years of compounded damage, all collected at once. To the outside world, it may look sudden. People might say everything was fine for them, and then, all of a sudden, it collapsed. But nothing about it is sudden. It's the result of accumulation. The same way unpaid bills pile up until a notice arrives, so too do the consequences of cruelty. And when the notice finally comes, it doesn't ask politely. It demands everything owed, with interest so steep they cannot bear it. This is why karma is never random, it is exact. It doesn't strike because of luck or chance, it strikes because a debt has matured. And when it does, there is no negotiation, no way to plead for more time. Life collects in full, and the payment is heavier than anyone ever expects. That's why people who live recklessly in malice eventually find themselves trapped in their own ruin. They weren't unlucky. They weren't targeted. They were billed, and the bill had been waiting. So when their downfall comes, don't mistake it for coincidence. It isn't chaos, it's balance. The same way interest compounds quietly in the background, so too do the consequences of cruelty. The only difference is this: money lost can sometimes be recovered. But when karma collects, it takes what can't be repaid: reputation, peace, and credibility, leaving nothing but the weight of the debt they thought they'd escaped. Number 8, karma doesn't just expose, it reverses the spotlight. The same eyes they begged to be on them, the same attention they chased, becomes the very flame that scorches their reputation. Enemies who thrive on recognition often believe visibility is always power. They think applause is proof of victory. They crave being admired, envied, or feared. But karma has a way of twisting that craving into the source of their humiliation. What once felt like glory becomes the arena for their undoing. Attention is dangerous when it isn't backed by truth. They built their identity on being seen, but what they didn't understand is that the spotlight is neutral. It shines on whatever stands in its path. When karma steps in, the light that once magnified their image now magnifies their cracks. The audience doesn't shift away, it leans closer. Every failure, every slip, every mask falling is witnessed in the same way their false achievements once were. That is the cruel fairness of the spotlight. It never distinguishes between praise and shame. It simply amplifies. And there's a deeper sting here. If they had lived in obscurity, their collapse might have gone unnoticed. They could have failed quietly, rebranded themselves and tried again, but they wanted to be seen. They demanded an audience, and karma, with its unmatched sense of irony, grants them one, only not in the way they intended. The recognition they worshipped becomes recognition for ruin. The spotlight they fought to control turns them into a cautionary tale. This reversal doesn't just affect how others view them, it eats at their core. Attention was their lifeline, the thing that fed their pride and ego. To now have that same force expose their weakness is more than embarrassment. It's devastation. It's the loss of identity itself. For someone who lived off admiration, being watched for failure feels like slow death. Karma doesn't take away the spotlight, it simply flips its purpose. The glow that once crowned them now sears them. The crowd that once clapped now whispers. The recognition they fought for so desperately remains, but instead of being remembered for their rise, they will be remembered for their fall. That's the reversal karma delivers, and it is far sharper than any revenge you could have imagined. Number 9, you won because you outlasted their falsehood. That's the part your enemies never saw coming. Deceit always looks fast. It gives quick results, flashy victories, and temporary advantages. Lies sprint ahead, making it seem like they're untouchable. For a while, they really do appear unstoppable. But truth doesn't run like that. Truth runs steady, quiet, and relentless. More like a marathon than a sprint. It doesn't need to rush because it knows time is always on its side. Your endurance became the weapon they underestimated. While they spent their energy plotting, lying, and covering their tracks, you conserved yours by standing firm. You didn't need to scheme to stay ahead because truth doesn't require maintenance. Lies, on the other hand, demand constant work. They must be defended, patched up, and spun into new stories just to survive another day. That's why deceivers always burn out. Their energy runs dry long before the race is over. What made you different is that you didn't crumble under delay. You accepted the truth might take longer to show, but you trusted that when it did, it would be undeniable. That patience, that ability to keep walking when they were running, became the very thing that secured your victory. When their lies began to collapse under their own weight, you were still standing. And that's what winning really looks like, being the last one unbroken when everything else has fallen apart. There's also a kind of poetic justice here. The finish line they thought they crossed early wasn't the real one. It was just a temporary illusion, a short-lived lead. The actual finish line belongs to endurance, and when the race stretched long enough, only truth had the stamina to reach it. And now, that finish line is being crossed, not with noise or spectacle, but with quiet certainty that cannot be undone. The lesson hidden in this is simple but powerful. Speed isn't strength, longevity is. Falsehoods can win moments, but only truth wins time. And by enduring, by refusing to give up or match their frantic pace, you let their lies run out of breath. That's why you won. Not because you fought harder, but because you lasted longer. And nothing defeats falsehood more completely than being outlived by the very truth it tried to bury. Number 10, what they built on you will crumble on them. People who use others as scaffolding for their success don't understand the basic rule of construction. A foundation made of lies and theft can't hold weight for long. They stack favors, stolen credit, and manipulated truths to raise themselves higher, believing those makeshift supports will carry them forever. But when pressure comes, scrutiny, time, or the simple truth, those supports fail. The architecture of their success was never honest, and dishonest structures fail the loudest. Every scheme they engineered to push you down becomes the very material of their collapse. The emails they forged, the promises they skirted, the backdoor deals they thought no one would trace, all of those choices are dry timber in a storm. When the wind of consequence blows, that timber snaps. The traps they laid for you, designed to trip you up, flip like switches and turn into pitfalls for themselves. Their tricks were handcrafted to exploit weaknesses, but tricks require constant maintenance. Eventually the screws loosen, the seams split, and the whole thing comes apart. There's a bitter justice in watching that happen because their ruin is not a tidy undoing. It's messy, loud, and public. The people who cheered them on start to count the cracks. Allies drift away when they see the structure isn't sound. Investors, friends, or followers reevaluate everything. Reputation is built slowly and lost in a single collapse. The rubble of their empire lands on their own feet, and suddenly every step forward is through debris they created. Living inside a design meant for someone else also means you never learned how to stand on your own. Their entire identity relied on borrowed strength. When the building falls, they discover they have no independent footing. That's the cruel lesson karma hands out. You can fake elevation, but you can't fake resilience. In the end, the people who thought they were master builders are reduced to scavengers sifting through their own remains, trying to salvage an image nobody trusts anymore. This is why patience and integrity win quietly, while deceit builds loudly. What they raised on your back will not shelter them, it will bury them. And when that pile finally collapses, the world sees clearly who did the stacking and who gets buried under it. Number 11, their reputation will rot faster than their excuses. That's the curse of betrayal and hypocrisy. Once people see the truth, they stop listening with the same ears. The very words that once persuaded, manipulated, or charmed begin to sound hollow. Excuses can still be made, but they no longer land. They bounce off deaf ears because the foundation of trust that gave those words weight has already collapsed. And when trust is gone, words don't build bridges, they burn them. A reputation is fragile in ways most people underestimate. It can take years to build, but only one exposure to destroy. Once that decay begins, it spreads quickly like rot eating through wood. The more they talk, the more the rot shows. People begin to hear contradictions, notice patterns, and connect the dots. Suddenly, what once seemed polished now reeks of insincerity. The carefully rehearsed narratives lose power because people aren't hearing explanations anymore. They're hearing desperation. What makes this collapse so brutal is that excuses don't stop coming. They keep trying to explain, justify, and twist events in their favor. But instead of saving them, those excuses accelerate the rot. Every word reminds people of the gap between their actions and their story. Every excuse becomes proof that nothing genuine is left. They dig themselves deeper, not realizing that silence would have done less damage than another round of defense. And here's the part karma ensures. Reputations don't just fade, they curdle. People remember hypocrisy in a way they don't remember simple mistakes. A thief who admits guilt may still regain some respect, but a hypocrite who hides behind excuses loses everything. Their downfall isn't just about exposure, it's about the lingering stench of being untrustworthy. Once the smell is there, people turn away and no amount of sweet talk can cover it. That's why reputation rots faster than excuses. Because words are cheap, but trust is priceless. Once it's gone, no story, no explanation, no carefully crafted speech can buy it back. They'll keep speaking, but their words will turn to ash in their mouths, crumbling before they ever reach the ears of those they're trying to convince. And the silence of disbelief will be louder than anything they say. Number 12. Karma doesn't just strip them, it dresses you. That's the part that makes the process so powerful. When enemies tried to take your dignity, they believed the loss would leave you bare, humiliated, and broken. But dignity isn't a garment they can steal, it's a fabric the universe reweaves around those who endure. Every attempt they made to shame you became a stitch in the new clothing karma was preparing. Clothing made of resilience, honor, and quiet glory. What they don't understand is that attacks don't leave you empty, they leave you seasoned. Every insult hardened your skin without hardening your heart. Every betrayal sharpened your wisdom without stripping your kindness. Every loss trained you to walk lighter, stronger, and clearer. While they invested their energy into tearing you down, karma was quietly building you up, fitting you with something far more valuable than the approval they chased, an inner strength that cannot be taken off. This transformation isn't loud. You don't walk around announcing it. That's why it unnerves people. They expected to see you in rags, but instead you show up clothed in a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to shout. The resilience you wear becomes undeniable in the way you carry yourself. The honor stitched into your story becomes evident in how people trust you despite what you went through. The quiet glory rests not in appearances, but in the fact that you survived without losing yourself. Meanwhile, their stripping is public and humiliating. The same stage they built for their pride becomes the place where their pretense unravels. And while they scramble to cover their exposure, you walk forward more clothed than ever, not in false layers, but in authentic strength. That contrast is karma's masterpiece, so yes, they lose. But you don't just win, you're elevated. For every piece of dignity they tried to snatch away, you're rewarded with double, a deeper voice of authority, a steadier sense of self, and a presence that commands respect without demanding it. Their downfall isn't just about their shame, it's about your rise. And your rise isn't dressed in vengeance, it's tailored in resilience, honor and glory that cannot be undone. Number 13. The humiliation will be public because the harm was public. Karma doesn't operate in chaos, it operates in symmetry. When someone decides to wound you in the open, they've already chosen the stage where their repayment will arrive. They wanted an audience for your embarrassment, so karma makes sure there's an audience for theirs. It's not about cruelty, it's about balance. The same platform they used to harm becomes the same platform where their downfall is revealed. This is why their exposure hits harder than any private consequence ever could. If they had hurt you quietly, perhaps the repayment would have stayed quiet too. But they dragged your name, your dignity, or your peace into the open. They made sure others saw it, heard it, and believed it. So now the echo returns in the exact same arena. Only this time the crowd isn't watching you suffer. They're watching the ones who caused it unravel. What makes public humiliation devastating is that it can't be erased. People might forgive, but they don't forget. Once the image of their fall is burned into the minds of witnesses, it lingers. Every attempt they make to rebuild is haunted by the memory of that moment, the laughter, the whispers, the turned backs. All of it becomes part of their legacy. It doesn't matter how loudly they try to defend themselves afterward. The public already saw the truth, and once seen, it can't be unseen. And there's justice in that. They used the crowd as a weapon against you, hoping numbers would magnify your pain. But karma multiplies symmetry. The very eyes they tried to manipulate now become the witnesses of their undoing. The same mouths that repeated lies will repeat their exposure. The same hands that clapped for their false victories will clap at their collapse. Though this time the applause carries irony, not admiration. Karma doesn't just punish, it teaches. By choosing public arenas for harm, they wrote the script of their own downfall. And when the curtain rises, there is no way to escape the symmetry. The humiliation will echo where the harm once did, not because you demanded it, but because balance demands it. That's how karma restores weight to the scales, openly, undeniably, and in front of everyone who needs to see. Number 14. Your role isn't to watch them burn. It's to keep walking while the fire lights your path. Karma's justice isn't a performance staged for your entertainment. Even though it may feel satisfying to see those who hurt you finally face their downfall, it's not meant to hold you in place as a spectator. It's meant to remind you that balance has been restored, and now your job is to move forward without looking back. The fire of their collapse isn't your campfire. It's your torch, guiding you into the next chapter of your life. It's tempting to pause and stare when karma strikes. After all, you endured the harm, the lies, the betrayal. Part of you wants to watch them choke on the same smoke they once blew in your direction. But if you linger too long, you risk tying yourself to their ruin. Their punishment belongs to them, not to you. Your energy isn't meant to circle around their suffering, it's meant to fuel your growth. Karma clears the road by removing obstacles, but you still have to walk it. That's where wisdom enters, knowing the difference between justice and obsession. Justice says, they've received what was due. Obsession says, I'll stand here until they have nothing left. But standing there means you waste the very gift karma gave you, freedom. While they are buried under their ashes, you're supposed to be rising above, walking lighter because the weight of their attacks has been lifted. The truth is, karma's fire serves two purposes at once. For them it consumes, for you it illuminates. Their destruction becomes your clarity. The lies that once clouded your name vanish. The traps they set for you are reduced to dust, and the confusion they spread is burned away. You see more clearly, not because you sought revenge, but because their exposure lit the room. That clarity isn't a signal to stand still, it's a call to move forward boldly. So keep walking. Don't waste your journey staring at ruins that no longer matter. Let the glow of their downfall remind you that truth outlives lies, and that survival isn't enough. Growth is the real victory. Their ashes aren't your destination, they are only proof that you were right to keep going, and now the path ahead is yours to claim. Karma is never rushed, never random, and never silent. It doesn't just even the score, it reshapes the entire game. The enemies who thought they could strip you, humiliate you, or bury you in lies are now standing in the light of their own exposure, while you move forward clothed in resilience, honor, and quiet power. Their downfall isn't your entertainment, it's your confirmation. Their ashes aren't your victory, your survival and growth are. The stage they once used against you is now the proof that balance always returns, louder and sharper than anyone expected. So take this truth with you. You don't need to fight dirty, you don't need to chase revenge, and you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Karma has already spoken, in its own timing, in its own symmetry, and in ways far beyond what you could orchestrate. Your only role now is to walk forward while the fire behind you lights the road ahead. If this message struck you deeply, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, like, comment, and share this with someone who needs the reminder that justice always comes, and when it does, it comes in full. Your rise is proof, their fall is the echo, and the story isn't theirs anymore, it's yours. Stay blessed always.